Well, we don't know what everyone is talking about, but those of you listening to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, we hope that you will join us on the air with your take. Talk about today, are you raising someone else's child? Have you, or does someone you know, have you adopted? Have you taken in maybe circumstances warranted that one of your children had a child and perhaps they weren't in a position to raise that child? So you're raising a grandson or a granddaughter as though he or she were your own child. There are many, many circumstances. Families will do this for one another, friends and so forth. And we want to know what your experience is. How is that for you? I mean, is there, do you have that real, familial love connection? Are there thoughts in the back of your mind? You know, this child isn't biologically mine, but I really want to try to love this child. So, Debbie, this is going to be, I think, an interesting conversation. Looking forward to a lot of participation.
I'm curious to see where it's going to lead to, Jerry, and I really want to ask our listeners to weigh in on what was the decision or what, prompted the decision for you to raise someone else's child. The child is not biologically your own. So what prompted you to take on that privilege? What inspired you? What encouraged you? Did you have support from your community when you decided to raise a child? We want to hear from you, so you got to dial in quick. Yesterday, I am not joking, in 45 seconds, all the phone lines were lit up. So you want to call in quick, share your take on this. We're talking about, are you raising someone else's child? And that child is now your own. So tell us about the story. 1-800-585-9396. 1-800-585-9396.
Yeah, and like we said, there are as many different reasons or scenarios as there are people who make this very, very generous decision. The gentleman who comes on the air right after us, Debbie, Dr. Ray Garendi, has 10 children. Mm-hmm. Every one of them is the son or daughter of other parents. Dr. Ray and his wife, Randy, have adopted all 10 of them. I know another friend of mine had, I think, 7 biological kids and then adopted 2. When those kids were starting to become a little bit older. So this is something that, and there's always the need too, Debbie. This is the thing. We need to focus on this because the culture so often pushes abortion and so many other things that are, detriments to children. But there are loving people who will take them in, give them a warm home, and show them what family really is all about. So
that's true. And I was hoping that we could have a friend of mine on briefly on the show today. Unfortunately, she had plans that she couldn't change. But it makes me think of her story. My friend is a catechetical leader, and she has been in ministry, pretty much her whole life in Phoenix. And she had raised her children. And when her son, fell into difficulties and unable to raise his own son, so this would be her grandson, she and her husband very quickly embraced that little baby boy, took him in as their own, and raised this boy. And I have to tell you something, Jerry, he is the most amazing young man. He's a young man now, junior high student, and he is just so deeply rooted in his Catholic faith. He serves at Mass. He goes to Catholic school. He has a bright light about him. I get chills when I think about him because he's such a beautiful boy. And to think that there may have been that time when he would have been shuffled around from person to person or whatever. But my friend and her husband felt it, very quickly. There was no decision, she snapped right into action and, raised again another family. I mean, she was done raising her family. Her kids were all out of the home. And she did it again. And this boy has brought such joy to not only her and her husband, Jerry, to the whole community. That's what's so beautiful about it. He's bringing and still brings amazing joy to the community. So we want to hear from you, dear listeners. Have you been gifted this opportunity to raise someone else's child? Tell us what it feels like. 1-800-585-9396.
Or perhaps we would absolutely welcome your calls if you were raised by people other than your own parents for whatever reason. Beautiful, beautiful stories like the one that Debbie just shared come out of this. And one of the reasons I think that is, Debbie, is because generosity begets generosity. And when we are generous with God, He is going to be generous with us. And I can only imagine, I don't have kids, even kids of my own, so I'm thinking about this couple, and there have been so many other couples, Debbie. Hopefully we'll hear from some of them. You know, their kids are raised, last one's out of the house, they're empty nesters. They're thinking, okay, now we can maybe travel, get an RV or, travel to see our kids and grandkids. And all of a sudden, through those circumstances and then that gracious, generous decision, they're back in the position of changing diapers again.
Exactly.
And raising a child. Now, that's not the only example that we're looking for here, folks. But again, if you are somehow involved in the upbringing of a child or children that aren't your own, give us a call here. Remember, Debbie, we want to emphasize this is a peer ministry and that it's peer-to-peer from listener to listener.
Well, that's how we design this, Jerry, because we want to grow together. We're the mystical body of Christ. Let's grow together. Your experiences, your wisdom, your takes on the situation, they help us, they edify us, they allow us to have safe conversations. So there goes the phone lines. I knew this was going to happen. So there is one open phone line if you want to jump in and share your take on this, 1-800-585-9396. Jerry, I just wanted to share one other thing. We live in a day and age where the configurations of a family are vastly different from the 1950s. And so it's important for us to talk about it. Not every family looks the same. Not every family has the same dynamics. And it's important for us to understand it because, as we've talked about in other shows, when we don't know things, when there's an ignorance about things, fear sets in. Labels start to form or stereotypes, and we don't want that. We want to be able, like Pope Francis said, to go out into the community and be Christ to one another. And that's what we can do in this conversation right now, is really understand what everybody's walk is. 1-800-585-9396.
All right, we're going to get set to go to the break here right now. Rich will take care of that for us. Our number is 800-585-9396. Maybe you have a blended family of mixed race children that you have adopted, or you're doing foster care. Dr. Ray Garendi has a family just like that, and we'd love to hear how that all comes together in just a beautiful family environment. So on the other side of this break, your takes for Debbie and Jerry on Take Two on EWTN.
What's stopping you from becoming a Catholic?
Why can't women become priests?
I don't understand why I have to earn salvation.
How is it possible that God created everything?
Why do I need to confess my sins to a priest?
Why is the Catholic Church so unwilling to The Catholic Church is too rich.
Catholics worship Mary and are committed.
As far as I'm concerned, all religions are equal.
You are called to communion with Dr. David Anders. Today, 2 p.m. Eastern, on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
EWTN Radio is drawing people of all races, nations, and walks of life to the life of Christ.
My father has a physical disability. Because of that, he cannot always make it to the Mass. Thanks to EWTN's airing the daily Mass, he's right there following along.
With satellite radio, I can listen to any show on EWTN's Catholic programming.
EWTN, truly the global Catholic radio network.
Thanks for joining us today on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. We're talking about, are you raising someone else's child? This child may not be your biological child, but you have taken this child in, and this child is yours, and you're raising that child. We want to hear about your story. What was the decision behind, making that leap of bringing another child into your home? So we're going to move right along to Alex, who is the first step in Oklahoma. Alex, welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Share your story. Hi, Alex.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm listening to the radio, and I hear this, and I thought, I'm going to give him a call and see, to share my story that I had with these two kids of my wife that she still has.
Okay,
Great.
go ahead.
Go for it, Alex.
It's been 16 years ago that me and my wife got together, and she already had a boy and a girl, and they were little, maybe 10, 11 at the time. And we're Mexicans. I'm from Mexico, and they're Mexicans American. So it was a different culture, the way I was raised and the way they were raised. My wife and her ex-husband, they were like about to split, so they have a bunch of issues there. So when I came to their life, I was like the black sheep coming into their house and destroy their marriage. So her kids, I try to raise them the way I was taught, the way my dad and my mom showed us how to be. So it was not quite understandable the way they were and the way I was. So they started coming out, talking to the grandma line about a bunch of stuff that I was a bad person. Sure.
Alex, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, you can go ahead. You're on.
Yeah. I was a bad person for 16 years. And me and their mama, we got two beautiful girls now. They're 15 and 16. Mm-hmm. So the older boy, 2 months ago, we have a reunion. So he'd say, I need to talk to you, Alex. I said, yeah, what can I do for you, man? He says, man, now I see my two sisters. They're your daughters. And I see how well you raise them. And now I understand what you try to do for us when we was little. He said, now that I'm a father, too, I see your point. That kind of break my heart. You know, we both hug and made peace. So for 16 years, I was a bad person on their life and the rest of the family. So every time we Catholics, we go to church, we do our confession, we do everything we got to do. And it took that long for, I guess, a miracle to work in their head or their mind. I don't know.
Right, Alex. But you know what? What you said is an amazing story because you hung in there for 16 years and, you didn't change. You went on to have other children and you brought your family together and you maintained your behavior as the father of the household, and look what happened. Your son came around when he became a parent. The other thing too is I just want to share. Alex, when your wife and you got together, you said that her son and daughter were 10 and 11 years old. That's a really tough age to come into a child's life. And so unfortunately, coming into their life when they already had experienced a former life, and then now at 10 and 11, they're starting to go through their, changes as they get older. And so that was tough for you. The thing that I think is beautiful about your story is you stayed steadfast and it came around. And then your son has now thanked you. And I think that's what I think as parents, all of us can learn, that so many times we have to stay just on that course, no matter how, our children may or may not be grateful for the things we do or don't do. And then we just stay, consistent in hopes that when our children get older and mature, they start to see the wisdom in our parenting. And it sounds like that happened with you, Alex. And I'm glad that you stayed as the dad in the house and went on to have a big family. And that just shows that it comes around full circle. Jerry?
Well, I want to point out we are going to do a show on stepfathers. That is Monday after Thanksgiving weekend, November 30th. So we're going to do a whole show on that particular topic. But Alex, it sounds like you don't need me to try and make you feel better about this, because these other kids have come back around and said how much they appreciate you now. But I just wanted to add that my parents divorced when I was 7, and we had actually 2 stepfathers after that. And I just think as a child going through that, to maybe help you understand where they were a little bit, I resented my stepfathers. They weren't my dad. I didn't want them in my life. One of them was not very kind to us on occasion. So I think it's just natural for kids to look at a stepfather or stepmother. They can anyway, not always, but I'm sharing it just in my situation, Alex, that it was like, you're not my dad, so I'm not going to call you dad and stuff like that. But thanks be to God, these two have definitely. Sounds like it's a beautiful situation now. Alex, did you have anything else before we let you go?
No, that's it, sir. I just want to share that with y'all, and I read the station. I mean, I always listen to the station. I love it. Every show that comes on the station, and the Rosary and everything. Because I watch it on TV too at the EWTN, and if I don't watch it at home, I listen on the radio. So.
Well, Alex, thank you so much, and please get the word out to all your friends and neighbors to support their local Catholic radio stations and EWTN television and radio, because we want to keep this going. We want Catholic radio to be very strong into the future so that our kids and grandkids can see the value in it and keep it going, for centuries. So thanks, Alex. Have a beautiful day, and thanks for calling in to Take Two.
All right. Thanks, Alex. Up next is Chris in Buffalo, listening on the Station of the Cross. Chris, we appreciate you calling Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. How are you?
Good. How about you?
Doing well.
We're doing
Thanks,
well.
Chris.
Thank you.
That's good. Our situation, I was a single parent with an older son, and then I got married 8 years ago, and my husband had no children. And we decided through some health issues, I was unable to still have children. So we decided to adopt 2 children from South America. And they were 8 and 10 at the time. And they have not yet been 4 years in the United States. I felt that God was directing us to do that. I just felt like that was what He wanted us to do. And we both did, and they're doing great right now. It's difficult. It's very difficult, but they're doing really well.
Well, Chris, share with us when you say it's difficult. Tell us what the difficult part is, because we want to learn.
Okay, they came into the United States when they were 8 and 10, so you don't have their past, as you said with the previous caller. You can only build from there. They may not have had the same religious upbringing as you. So there's sometimes some resistance because you didn't have them from the start, getting used to what your way of bringing them up is, I guess.
Gotcha.
And also there's a lot of difficulties with school because they were of another language. They were Spanish-speaking. And coming into English school. So, I mean, it's a lot of hard work with school, which puts a lot of stress on the family. But, they're really succeeding well, and the schools have been cooperative. But, that's been our difficulty. We have a teenager now. Now he's 14. No.
Right.
Yeah, he's 15, excuse me. And she's 12. So, it's difficult with teenage years. But I think it's typical. I think it's pretty typical. But he's succeeding really well. And I'm sorry. Go on.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say you can relate firsthand to what we just said to Alex when he came into his stepchildren's lives at 10 and 11 years old. Your children were adopted at 8 and 10. So, I mean, can you kind of confirm or affirm that it is kind of difficult when the children are older and have known a different life and can remember a different life?
Yeah, I would definitely say that it's more difficult. I mean, because I did bring up one son of my own, and it's just, even the bonding is a little bit difficult. But I guess I don't want to put like all negative a spin on it because there's just so much. My husband would have never been able to have children, and it's done so much for his life, and I really wanted him to be able to have that in his life. And I do feel that the kids have really, they would have never had a life like this. They just wouldn't have, and, you can see the gifts that God gave them. I mean, it also opens you up to understanding that, everybody's the same, because they were from a different country, that everybody has similar thoughts, and, you just can see how, we're all interconnected. with God, because we're all the same, really, when it gets down to it. We just have our different ways.
How old are your 3 kids now, Chris?
Okay, well, I have one that's going to be 30. That's the oldest one. And then the 2 children are 15 and 12.
Okay. Yeah, I asked because I know you and your husband are doing a great job, and just wanted to offer you a bit of an encouraging word. We went to the World Meeting of Families in Philadelphia several weeks ago, and just to save on some costs, we stayed with a wonderful couple. Actually, it's the brother of I was in the seminary for a while, a classmate of mine who's now a priest, and we stayed with his brother and his wife, and they adopted 3, I think they're siblings, I believe from Mexico.
They are siblings. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and one of them now is serving in the military, one is in grad school in Spain somewhere, and the other one is just doing something also remarkable. So there are the challenges, Chris, and the sacrifices which you have explained here on the air. But I'm sure you've seen a lot of blessings already, and I know that your even your adopted kids have great futures to look forward to.
They're one thing that the teacher said about my youngest, which is she's a little girl. She said she is kind every day. She's happy every day, and she doesn't see that in every child. Let's put it that way. She just sees, even if kids are nasty, she'll come back the next day kind. So she really has a very good spirit, and so you just can see the blessings that God has, with each of them.
Yeah. Chrissy, I love your story on so many levels because, you raised your child, and I got those Holy Spirit goosebumps when you said, you wanted to do this for your husband because he wouldn't have been able to have children. And I just see, in my mind, I see so many future blessings for you and your family. I just do, because there was so many beautiful, unselfish, gifts and sacrifices that were made in your family, your whole entire family. And I just find it to be just a beautiful framework, a model framework for just that self-giving love, that a total, a gift to others. And that's what you've been to your husband, and then to your adopted children, and your husband now is benefiting because he has a family. And I mean, I just see on so many levels. You have a great story, Chris.
Thank you. We
all right, Chris.
Okay, bye-bye.
God bless you. Yeah, we're going to pray for you. Please keep us in your prayers too, Chris. All right, we are going to get to a break. We have what we call that old hard break here. So, Brad, you're up next. We've got Roy and Ruby. We're going to get to each and every one of you. Our topic today, our question for you: are you raising someone else's child? It could be through foster care, through adoption, through maybe one of your own children had a child and just their life circumstances weren't all there so that they were really fit to raise their child. So you've made the decision as a grandparent to take on the raising of one of your grandchildren. Could be any or other circumstances similar to this at 1-800-585-9396. 1-800-585-9396. So, Debbie, we got about a minute to go before the break here, and I'm looking forward to some more of these calls. This is a great show so far.
It really is. It's very inspiring, and it gives us just a sense of gratitude for so many people that are willing to make that generous offer to bring other children into their home and make them part of their family, and to let them have a life that they probably maybe could have never even have dreamed of. And so I think this is a great show for all of us to realize that, we are in this together. Like Chris said, we are all the same. And it's great for us to know what others are walking and what they are doing in their own homes, because it allows us to appreciate each other. I love this show, Jerry.
All right, there's the music. When we come back, more of your takes on this topic. Tomorrow, we have titled the show Men in Pink. We're going to be talking about, you see these burly, big, nasty, mean, 350-pound NFL players wearing pink. What's that all about? Well, we're going to explain a little more of that on the other side of the break.
EWTN is now on Twitter. Get short, timely messages from EWTN on your computer or cell phone. It's easy to stay up to date on a wide variety of topics. pro-life news, Vatican announcements, catechesis, apologetics, the latest EWTN programming, and more. You can link to EWTN on Twitter from our homepage or go to twitter.com/EWTN. At work, at home, at school, and on the road. Stay connected to your world with EWTN's Twitter page.
From EWTN News Nightly in Washington, D.C., I'm Brian Patrick with your EWTN News Link. The suspected mastermind of Friday's deadly attacks in Paris died in a police raid Wednesday. Police officials confirm remains of Abdelhamid Abaoud were identified along with his female cousin. She is believed to have detonated a suicide vest while talking to police. The lower house of the French parliament votes to extend a state of emergency for 3 months after the deadly attacks. The measure should win final approval tomorrow, expanding police powers to respond to terror threats. Speaker Paul Ryan says a House bill will not limit Syrian and Iraqi refugees admitted to this country based on their religions, as some GOP presidential candidates suggest. Ryan says the bill requires evidence the refugees will not be a security threat. The whole world is at war, and the rejection of the path of peace means that God himself, that Jesus himself weeps. That message from Pope Francis in his homily at this morning's Mass. Watch EWTN News Nightly tonight.
It's the start of a new day for Morning Catholic Radio.
St. Leo the Great, he was responsible for defending the fully God, fully man idea of Christ. It's a high Christology, as we would say. He came up with this thing called the hypostatic union. That sounds like a Christian band.
Yeah, it does.
With the opening act, Moon Pie or something.
Morning Glory, Catholic from the start. Weekday mornings, 7 Eastern on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Brad, we're going to get right to you. I just wanted to finish up a brief explanation of tomorrow's show. Again, we've titled it Men in Pink. There is this huge, gigantic push in our culture to support these causes that fight breast cancer. Amen. Debbie and I would say an absolute amen to that. I have known people who have survived breast cancer. I've known people who've died of breast cancer. Debbie, I'm sure you have as well. The problem that I think that we have is, and we're going to talk about this tomorrow, first of all, I can't stand seeing NFL players wearing pink, okay? I think these guys this is sort of an emasculation of these guys. I get it. The NFL wants to be on board with the fight and all of that. But we're going to dive into this tomorrow because there are organizations, even the Susan G. Komen Foundation, which has been on again, off again, funders of Planned Parenthood, the largest abortion provider in the world, and there is a direct scientific link between abortion and breast cancer. So it's possible your money that you're giving to fight breast cancer is going to a cause that is actually causing breast cancer. This is insidious, and we're just going to try and take a balanced, reasoned look at this. So anyway, I think it's going to be an important discussion tomorrow, Debbie, and I hope people will tune in for that.
Oh, I think people are going to be gearing up for it. I mean, I think it's going to be a very interesting conversation. So mark your calendars for tomorrow and tell your friends about it on Take Two. Okay, we're going to go right to Brad, who's been waiting so patiently. Brad, you just squeaked over by 10 seconds for the Patience Award that we give out every single day on Take Two.
There's a time now.
And you're from Erie, Pennsylvania. Hi, Brad. Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Thank you. It's good to talk to you guys again.
Thank you.
I do not have adopted or foster children, but I work as a mental health therapist, and I've worked with families where there are difficulties with attachment. And I just wanted to say there are a lot of resources out there if a family's going through that. If they would just get on the internet and search attachment therapy, they will be able to find those resources that are going to help them.
Great advice. Great advice. But do you have your own story? Do you have your own story or no?
Well, it's not easy work, but these children can develop attachments with their family. I know I said I'm not supposed to promote a specific person, but may I offer a book I found that has helped some families?
Sure.
Okay, the book is The Inner Voice of Love by Father Henry Nouwen. And I found that book very, very, very helpful for some people as they kind of work through that.
Say the title again, Brad. You were cutting up a little bit there.
My apologies. The Inner Voice of Love.
The Inner Voice of Love. All right, yeah, we'll look that up. And, so, Brad, in your practice, then, do you have a lot of clients that have these issues with trying to bond and blend with children that aren't their own biologically?
I've worked with a number of them. I work for a company that deals specifically. Our youth usually come to us through the court system, but we've worked with a number of them, and we've had some good successes.
Very good. Well, Brad, we thank you for calling and sharing that. We're going to take a look at that book and possibly mention that again before the end of the program. Anything else, Brad, for our listeners before we let you go?
Yeah, at this point, even though I'm not supposed to mention a person, I'd like to give a really good plug for Dr. Ray Guarendi. I know his show follows yours, and I think he is a great resource for parents that are struggling with all types of problems.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Brad, you can always mention Dr. Ray. We love Dr. Ray.
So do I. I attend his talks anytime he's in the area.
Yeah, he's really a wonderful guy, and he's so fun, and he's got a great joy for just life, and he just lightens up a room. When he comes into a room, you always know Dr. Ray Guarendi's in the house. So, Brad, that was a great shout out for everybody that loves Dr. Ray, and he does come up right after our show, and we're happy. We're sandwiched right between Johnette Bankovic and Dr. Ray. We feel very blessed. We're like an Oreo cookie there, right?
Thanks, Brad, for your call from Erie, Pennsylvania. I want to mention, speaking of Erie, that we talked about this yesterday. Just a quick plug. Father Larry Richards is there. He's on EWTN Open Line on Thursday, and he's one of the 6 speakers who are going to be at the inaugural One Faith Experience. Father Larry, Tim Staples, Deacon Harold Burke Sivers, and some other speakers. 2 great bands, including Matt Maher. So, again, just a quick, shameless plug. Debbie and I are helping to organize this event, and we'll be the hosts of it. It's going to be at the Chaffetz Arena, campus of St. Louis University. If you want information, it's next April, but tickets are reserved, and they're already starting to go. So
well,
you can
very
get
fast, actually.
OneFaithExperience.com is where you can find details about that.
Jerry, when I saw that Brad was calling in from Erie, Pennsylvania, I thought of Father Larry Richards right away. And I have to just tell our listeners, I saw him several times in Phoenix. My heart just pounds. I mean, when he speaks, it's amazing. He just electrifies the room or the stadium or wherever he's speaking. He has such a presence about him. He's such a gifted speaker. If you've never seen Father Larry Richards, you want to see him. And if you can see him on stage with the other 5 speakers and then the Matt Maher concert and the Thirsting, it is a home run all the way around, and tickets are so cheap. Please grab them quick. I always say you don't want any regrets. The worst thing that could happen is you wake up and you hear our show and we say, hey, it was sold out and you didn't get to purchase your ticket. So OneFaithExperience.com.
All right, Ruby, thanks for holding so patiently in Mobile, Alabama. Up next on Take 2 with Jerry and Debbie. Ruby, thank you for calling the show. How are you on this fine day?
I'm great. How are you guys?
Doing better now that you called.
Awesome. Hey, okay, so this is what I want to share. I have my granddaughter. She's 5, and I'm currently homeschooling her, which is she is a tremendous blessing to me. I've had her since she's a baby. But okay, so my daughter, when we moved here to Mobile, relocated here, I started looking for jobs and stuff, and I couldn't find any job. I couldn't land any job. But I know now why I didn't get a job, because God is starting to give me this blessing of watching my granddaughter. I never had that opportunity with my own 2 kids who are grown now. They're 21 and 27. But so my Are you guys still there?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So she's 5 now, and I'm homeschooling her, and she knows the prayers at church. Our Father, Hail Mary, Glory Be. She is learning the mysteries of the Rosary. She's learning a lot. She's growing a lot, this whole experience is just a blessing, And if I have the other opportunity to be with her for a much longer time, and I would accept that. But I just want to share that with you guys.
Ruby, you shared it so well because you could hear the emotion in your voice, and you obviously were kind of welling up with tears of just gratitude and joy. And you made the comment, I think twice, I believe, it's a blessing.
Yes.
And yeah, and that's just, I when you acknowledge that, and as you did so well, you actually just did globally because everybody heard it, and how wonderful that is when you acknowledge the blessings that were given to you, like we should all do. I mean, you have to imagine that God in heaven is smiling and is so pleased when we acknowledge those blessings. And you've done it so well today on Take Two. And your story is wonderful. And I hope you get much more time with your granddaughter and sharing the faith like you have, because you're planting the beautiful seeds of faith in your granddaughter. And, who knows what she's going to do. She may be the one who's maybe the first woman president. You never know. I mean, so many things could happen.
Yeah, Ruby, you mentioned a couple times that you have the blessing of watching your granddaughter, and then I think you made a sort of an allusion to not really knowing how long that will be. So this is maybe personal information. You don't have to share anything, but is this she lives with you? You're actually raising her now, or?
Well, see, this child came out of again, she's a blessing. Okay, this is with an ex-boyfriend. My daughter is now married happily, and it's just fortunate that her husband just loves her just as much as she would have been his own child. Mm-hmm. All right, so and that's a blessing as well, because my son-in-law, he loves the Lord and fears the Lord, has fear of the Lord. So that is another blessing that came in this family. But the other blessing was that my daughter decided to keep the baby. I mean, there was nothing.
Yes.
There was no hint. There was no hint any other way that she was gonna either, abort it or give it away. She wanted to keep the baby, so that was a good thing, because we've never talked about that, and so when she decided to do that, okay, we'll do everything we can, and when she was born, the father is still, connected to her until he decided to move to Florida, and she was going to go with him, but then decided not to, and that was the end of that. But, he is still in her life. She sees him, every now and then. But, yeah, so I don't, as far as my relationship with the daddy, I don't have any, but, so I'm pouring all my love with her. So, I get really, and this is my weakness, I love her so much, I get really impatient with her because I want her to be perfect, just like the father is perfect. So, yeah, I'm sorry.
Ruby, your heart is so beautiful, though, Ruby, and I think this just highlights how, whatever the circumstances are, when life is involved, it is a gift. It is a blessing. And Ruby, to see how this has blessed you and your life, and no doubt your daughter and her husband, and Debbie, life is precious, and God will bring blessings out of any and all circumstances. With God, all things are possible. And I can't, Ruby, I bet you can't imagine your life without this little bundle of joy.
Yeah,
I can't. So here she is, and I get to watch her grow, and I'm so happy.
Well, and Ruby, you instilling the faith, that is what's going to just keep her close to Jesus. And that is the perfection that God is looking for, that authenticity in Christ, to be totally authentic, that we know who we are, what God created. She has a purpose. The miracle, the perfection is that she was born and she's here. And now she just gets to grow closer and closer to God, and through your instruction and your example, that's all that's needed. And God is so amazing. And so the blessings that you have right now, Ruby, we just pray that they continue to flow. And your story is a great story because it's yours. But what I love about it is that you have such emotion behind it. Your love is just exuding out of you, Ruby. So God bless you. Know that you have a whole prayer team around you. And it's amazing that you're, wait, Jerry just sent me something. Ask her. Okay. Say one or, oh, yes, please. Oh, Jerry just sent me a text and I couldn't read and talk at the same time. Ruby, can you ask your granddaughter to say some prayers for our show? Because we know that the prayers of the innocent youth just kind of shoot up to heaven the quickest. Will you ask your granddaughter to pray for the show and also for EWTN?
Sure, I will, but she's kind of shy right now. She don't want to talk so.
Well, it doesn't have to be right now on the air.
Not now.
Not on the air, Ruby, but you said you're teaching her the Hail Mary and the Glory Be in the Our Father. So maybe just when you're alone in a quiet moment at nighttime prayers or something, just ask her to remember Jerry and Debbie and EWTN, and we would appreciate that so much.
We will. We will. I promise. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
God bless y'all.
Thanks, Ruby. Okay, Jerry, I realized when I turned 50, I cannot walk and read and talk and anything at the same time anymore. I'm done multitasking.
Is this a don't chew gum kind of moment here? Or?
Well, when we were talking about raising kids, Jerry, and when I was raising kids, I could cook dinner, talk on the phone, have a baby on the hip, and probably, I don't know, washing dishes at the same time. And now, after turning 50, I'm like a single task person.
You are forgiven.
Thank you.
Okay, we've got Roy. Roy has been waiting a long time. In fact, I think we lost him and then he called back. So, Roy, you're going to be up next. A very quick break here right now, and there's still more time. Are you raising someone else's child? Tell your story. You could actually prompt someone to do something generous that they might be hesitating to do right now. 1-800-585-9396 to be on live on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. We are coming right back.
"60 Seconds with Father Mitch Pacwa."
Jesus told us as a command, not as, would you guys mind going out and preaching the gospel? It'd be okay. He didn't say that. What he said is, go and preach the gospel. He said, if you got time, no, he wasn't hesitant at all. This is urgent. Get out there. People need good news. They're committing sins. They're getting themselves ready for hell. They're working for the enemy, and they don't even know it. They're using drugs and other deadly things. They're committing murder. Go out and preach the good news. He commands it. And this always maintains its vital value. There's no time where, that was sort of an old part of our culture. We don't do that anymore. That's not my Bible. My Bible doesn't say that it's a part of the old culture. This is part of today's culture. Amen? Amen.
The people you know and trust are on EWTN.
Hi, this is Dr. Ray Gurendi. Thank you for listening to the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
Thanks for joining us today on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. Keep the conversation going on Facebook and on Twitter. I'm still learning how to do Twitter, Jerry. I got to learn that, completely. I know I've been getting a lot of tweets, I guess is what you call them, and I still can't figure out where it goes. It goes into that big abyss of the tweeting world. But keep it on Facebook, take2show.com. You can always email us, Jerry and I, at take2, the number 2, at EWTN.com. Okay, Roy, we were praying you would come back. You were on the line and you dropped off, and you're back from Kansas listening on Sirius XM 130. Hi, Roy. Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
It is an honor to speak with you, and praise be Jesus Christ.
Now
Amen.
and forever.
That's right. Well, I just want to tell a story. I married a lady, she's still my wife. She had 2 girls from a previous marriage. They were 5 and 3 at the time. And we were married for a few years. And my niece just turned 16, got pregnant. And she lived with us. We were taking care of her. And we thought she was where she was supposed to be. And she wasn't. So it happened. But she came, I was out. I was gone. I was out on a job. And she went to my wife and asked her what she thought I would say about her getting an abortion. And she said, well, she said, well, I think you lost your mind, but if you want to ask him, you go ahead. So she did. She came to me, and she wanted to take a drive, and then she told me, and she was pregnant. She said, I want your permission to get an abortion. And I said, absolutely not. I refuse. I'm not going to stand before God and answer for the murder of a child. And she said, well, it's not your child. I said, if you ask me for permission and I give you permission, yes, I'm responsible for that life and that death. If you abort that child now with me having knowledge of it, I am complicit in that child's death, and I want no part of it. If you will have the child, I said, I believe that your aunt will be fine with this. So I said, if you will agree to have the child, we will adopt the child and raise the child as our own. And of course, my wife, I know my wife, and I knew she wouldn't hesitate. So she said, well, if you think she'll do it. And I said, oh, I know she will. So I went home and talked to her. She said, of course. So she had the baby, and we did adopt the baby. Her name is Hannah. She's 16 now. She has been nothing but a blessing. The other 2 girls, they're sisters. We're a family. The other 2 girls, they've got a relationship with their dad, and he's not a bad guy. And, I've never tried to interfere, but those girls come to me when there's problems. And the youngest one, three years ago, she got leukemia. And we went through all that, 2 years of treatment. She's been cancer-free for almost a year now. They're talking about taking her port out now. And then, she'll be through. She won't have to go back to the doctor or anything, every 5 years or so for a follow-up. But, through the whole thing, I've always known that had I said, yeah, go ahead and do that, I would have been responsible for that child's death. I would have been responsible for the murder of that child. And had she aborted the child anyway, I just think of the blessing that I would have missed. It's been incredible. Having another girl, and she's out. She knows who her biological father and mother are, but she doesn't, they're not mom and dad. We're mom and dad. So It's been a blessing, and I encourage anyone that's given the opportunity to affect a child's life in that way, don't hesitate. God will continue to bless you for it.
Roy, again, your story, like as in Ruby's story, talking about the child being a blessing in your life. And I think what's great about your story, I don't know if you've read or if our listeners have read Into the Breach by Bishop Thomas J. Olmsted. He wrote about men and their roles in the family and how they need to really be that leader and to really express and to live by what they know is true. And Roy, you did exactly that. You said, no way, no how, not on my watch, you're not having that abortion. And you were willing to not only speak it, but you were willing to walk the walk and say, okay, have that child, and we will adopt that child. And now I believe you said, I think you said Hannah, you cut out a little. Hannah is your daughter, and she's been nothing but a blessing to you. So you went that extra mile, Roy. You did the right thing in God's eyes, and look at the blessing that you have now are experiencing. If anyone else wants to read about Into the Breach, it's intothebreach.net. You can read Bishop Olmsted's teaching on it. It's absolutely amazing. But Roy, you are the example of exactly what Bishop is talking about. Jerry?
Well, I just wanted to say, there's not a lot you can say about this. The story is absolutely breathtaking, Roy. I just think about you, Roy, dear sir, that, had you thought about abortion differently or been weak on that point, and you know all of this. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. I'm just kind of fleshing it out for our listeners that, every night of your life you would have put your head on your pillow and this would haunt you. And the reverse of that is now every night you put your head on your pillow and God willing, you have a beautiful smile on your face. A life has not only been preserved, but you are raising that life. And who knows what marvelous things God has planned for that beautiful girl. So, Roy, this has been an amazing call. We're down to our last 30 seconds, but if you have any last thoughts, Roy, we'll throw it back your way for a second here.
Well, I sure appreciate you. I appreciate the praise and we never really thought about what we would gain from it. We just thought about what was right and what was true and what God would want. So It's been a blessing. I encourage anyone to do it. Man, there's a lot of kids out there that need saving. We need to reach out there for them. It's our responsibility.
Thank you, Roy, for sharing that. Roy. And Mary and Vicky, you looks like you have great stories too. I wish every day this happens. We just have to bring the show to a close. Mary and Vicky, please email us, take2@EWTN.com, or post on the take2show.com website. But Debbie, just a great note to end a show that had, I think every call was just a home run today. Our listeners are fantastic. And like Roy said, Debbie, every one of them could say the same thing. They weren't doing it because, hey, what I'm going to get out of it, or, hey, everybody look at me, aren't I doing something great? It's just the right thing, and in doing the right thing, God will pour out blessings. That's my takeaway today.
That was my takeaway.
Okay, well, we'll share it today.
No, that was my takeaway. I have the notes right here, but I'm glad, this was a great show. It really, I think, we say this every single time we come on the air. We say, you inspire us, dear listeners, and you truly do. I don't know, you pick another word for me to say that's synonymous to inspiring, because that's what you are, and you're amazing. You drive this show. You help us grow and for the better. We're always growing closer to God because of you. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about these big NFL players dressed in pink for a cause. Is it the right thing to do? Is it what we should be doing? But we want to hear from you. So mark your calendars for tomorrow. But until then, have a beautiful and blessed day. Jerry and I will see you tomorrow.